Hey everyone, just quick note on this video before you watch it. This video was recorded in late August 2024 before my friend and writing partner Doug Riggle passed away. This is the fourth of six episodes that were recorded before Doug passed away. Um, on this one, we're talking about some of the challenges that he was addressing that were starting to come up. We really talk about how you handle it when curveballs are thrown your way and how things can fall apart and how you try to find that peace in it. And Doug just has a great couple of moments in here where he's talking about Jesus' example of being a servant. He was a master. Doug was a master of getting like the Instagram reel or YouTube short sayings that were on here. You'll see a couple of them in this video. And I recount a project that I was working on at the time. So I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks so much. Because Satan lies in wait to be able to spring stuff that feels like, it's righteous. It's righteous for you to be able to stand up and to say your stuff and to go,
Right.
there is some truth in that until it goes, because then the sinful part of us goes, and I'm gonna make you hurt for what you put me through.
Yep.
Hey, everybody, welcome to I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. My name is Kevin Gregg. I am a creative director, writer, producer. I've gone through challenges with overcoming alcohol with Christ's help, and I deal with control issues and struggle, with wanting things to go my way. That's who I am. Who are you, Doug?
I am Doug Riggle. I am a change consultant, communications expert, writer, and lover of Christ, someone who just wants to see this world improve in whatever way possible. And I think Kevin and I are onto some things to help this world improve person by person. So that's who I am.
Amen. Thanks for being here on our show. We help you get through the storms of life with Christ's help and figuring out how you can deepen your relationship with God and figure out what God's calling is for your life. Part of that's through writing, talking. Those are actually major tenets of what we do here on the show. It's been a little while since Doug and I've got to chat with each other. You may not see this on the podcast as we're doing it, but a couple of things. It's been a few major weeks with stuff, and we talk about challenges that we've gone through. Doug, you've definitely gone through challenges in the last couple of weeks. What's been going on with you? Fill in the listeners to what's happening.
So about 3 weeks ago, gave me an MRI to find out why my liver enzymes weren't um, approaching where they should be during my chemo treatments. And they discovered that the stent they put in last March had some blockage. So 2 Fridays ago, they went in here locally, here in Lexington, South Carolina, and weren't able to quite get everything released.
Is it
So they
so when you have a blockage, did you say, and is it some kind of a stone or something like that that's in the
in this
stent or
case, it was some stuff and a stone. So the stone, I think, was causing the original blockage,
right?
and it caused other stuff to kind of back up in there.
Okay, got it.
So they couldn't deal with it here, so they sent me to another place in Charleston, South Carolina. So I went down there for the morning and had the same surgery done. The first surgery was 3 hours long. The second surgery was like an hour long, but
Mhm.
he not only cleared out the current stent, put a new stent in as well.
Oh wow,
So I'm still recovering from that.
yeah.
Helping my body hasn't been digesting food properly, so that's coming around. And I'm every time I eat something, I'm a little bit of pain, but I'm eating like I made the mistake two days ago of having like a big dinner because I was hungry. That was a big mistake. I woke
Yeah.
up in the middle of the night with a lot of pain, but I'm just eating a little bit each day until everything gets back to normal. And plus, with the antibiotics that they give you, I now have to get my gut bacteria back to normal as well. So
Yeah, totally right. It's a lot, right? It's a lot of pressure on the body. Now, it's all where do they go in on you, man? Because it's a liver thing. Is it like down at you? They go in that way?
So if you ever seen Alien,
Yeah,
that tube that goes down, they actually showed it to me in Charleston of what they're actually putting down my throat.
yeah.
And the first thing I thought is like, I hope you have a lot of lube because it was about this big around. and
Yeah.
it goes down my voice box into my stomach, and they do all the operations from within my stomach out
Wow.
to the bile ducts in the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder.
Dude, so that includes all the initial stuff that you had done as well?
Yeah.
Wow, so it's all done that way. So it's literally getting all of the mechanics and everything down there via this big thing, and then they start operating inside that way.
Yes.
Woo! That
Yeah.
is amazing.
Which is good for recovery time
Yeah.
because I haven't been opened up. The very first time they did open me up a little bit by my stomach
Mm,
because it was all brand new. But
yeah.
this second time they did it, they replaced the plastic stent with a permanent metal stent.
Yeah.
And then this last two times, um, they just went down through my esophagus again. So
Yeah. Wow.
fun
Crazy.
stuff.
So it's all that healing and repairing that's just got to happen as the esophagus goes, okay, we had all this stuff come through and let's relax and heal up and all that too, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
How
been
are
fun.
the You know what? I think that was said sarcastically. And I don't blame you. Um, how have your chemotherapy treatments been going? I'm assuming while you're going through all these surgeries, they have to put everything on hold right now, or what do they do? No?
Yeah. I'm started my I'm on 3 weeks in a row and then off a week. So my first surgery, I was actually off a week, but my second surgery, I had chemo like 2 days before that surgery. So
Okay.
that doesn't interfere with anything.
And so so surgical team is all aware of it and all this stuff. They understand like, yep, this guy's got chemicals and stuff that's coursing through him, but that's okay. This is our
Yep.
specialty. This is what we do. We
Yep. My nurse was from Russia. My doctor was from Ireland this past Friday.
yeah.
And I had quite the international team working on me, and they did a great job. And I've got their business cards. I'm like, if I need this done again, I'm just going to come back down here because
Yeah.
it was a much better process.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it is the type of teams, the type of materials that they have available to them. It's, it's a case for when you're getting certain procedures done in certain areas,
Yeah.
crazy. How are you feeling through all this, man? Like what's going on with you mentally, spiritually, everything that's happening? What's going on?
When I'm in the midst of it, it's hard for me to plan out anything because I know in October I want to go to Colorado, and in November to Iowa, and then December to Ohio. But I haven't, I like until things get worked out better. It's like I haven't been able to plan any of that because I want to make sure that I can actually plan accordingly. So,
Yeah.
but now that things are improving, in fact, I had chemo 2 days ago and my liver numbers were great, which is good. That was their first acknowledgement that something wasn't right. My liver numbers, so they do a blood test before every chemo, and they test probably 35, 40 different, everything from white blood cell count, hemoglobin, red blood cell count, to all these other things that onion gap and things that I had to look up every time because I'm not a doctor.
Right. Just like it's a bunch.
Yeah,
It's a bunch. Um, Crazy, buddy. We're just continuing to pray for you, and it's what a crazy journey, right? What a crazy journey this has been, and just like trying to figure it out, just sort of one step at a time. So
right.
nuts, buddy.
Interesting. My nurse on last Friday told me that the rates of cancer have increased quite a bit since 2020. Now, they're not going to say it's because of the shots, but she's also not saying that. So it was really interesting having that conversation with her because I'd been healthy since age two,
Yes,
age one, up until 57, 58. And then
yes.
suddenly I get a very rare um, cancer that's not curable.
It's an interesting thing. And we'll say this right now for our friends that are on YouTube. We're not medical. We're not medical experts at all. We have our thoughts, we have our stuff. Believe me, I've got tons of feelings on that as well too. There's a lot of stuff that you know, that we have bombarded ourselves with, particularly over the last several decades. That's kind of going, and me personally, I do feel that in some cases, yeah, there's been fantastic advancements that have happened with obviously the surgeries that you're having and some of the medications and the things that you're receiving. And then there's other things that you just kind of go, yeah, I think maybe we're playing God here. Or maybe there's some, you know, profiteering or things like that that's also happening at the same time. And also things are just like untested or things where you just kind of go, yeah, we think it'll work. We think it'll work mainly okay.
Right.
And just, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. I feel like Ozempic is one of those things. We hear people just kind of like going, oh, I'm on Ozempic, 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 and just kind of going, yeah, that's okay, but you don't know what the ramifications of that are, you know? And it's like, and I do think, I don't mean to go off on a whole tangent with this, but I do feel, and it does dovetailing with this, with the stuff that we're working on and talking through. I think that we have had the last several decades as people have shoved God more and more and more out of society. Um, with that comes a fear of death, right?
Hmm.
With that comes an absolute fear of death. And so, what ends up becoming the absolute worst thing in the world is like, you got to hold on to this life because this is all you have. And so, if you're holding on to your life as best you can, then all of a sudden it's like, we can't die. Anything
Right.
we can do to keep us alive. And and again, it just become this thing of like, we've got to beat this stuff. We've got to beat anything because we're absolutely terrified of death. And guess what? If you believe that if you believe that this life is all that there is, you should absolutely be terrified of death. You should absolutely be terrified of death because there is a reward that will happen for that. It is a reward of your own making and your own choice, which is the absolute separation of God that you have requested for your entire life. And it's exactly what you will get. You get exactly what it is that you've requested. Um, and so, but the other side of this too is that when we're at a place of realizing that there is a loving maker who is perfect and without sin and is complete love and wants us to be a part of that, I am so sorry why that's going off. Literally on these Macs, if I don't do a thing, I get this little ding that goes off, and I'm trying to figure out why that's happening. So I'm going to shut this off. Madness, man. It's like I shut it off on my phone, but then my Mac goes, hey, hey, hey. Sorry, as I'm talking about the eternal during all of this. Um, but here is God that literally wants you with him in eternity, right? And the way to do that is through Jesus Christ, through the belief of him and the sanctification of him and all that. And so my point with all of this is that Jesus has defeated death, right? Jesus has defeated death and what's on the other side of that, right? Which is isolation and separation from God. And Jesus works as that bridge. And so if there's an embracing of that and giving into that, you're going to be okay. Yes, you will still face death in this life, but what's on the other side, it's glorious, right? And
Yeah.
so when you understand that and embrace that, and for a society that continues to shove out God, Christianity, Jesus, all of the means of doing it, you're absolutely left with this is all it is. And I think that that's, you know, resplendent in, everyone trying to find out medical solves, or these guys are out there. I think that we may have talked about it before, but there's this one guy that is absolutely bent on the idea of human immortality. He's absolutely bent on the idea
Yeah.
of like, we're going to look at death as a disease. Well, it is in a way. It is a
Right.
disease. It's a disease as a result of sin. That's what it is. But when people try to like understand, like, no, 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 death is something that we can control and all this stuff, it's like, quit playing Frankenstein. Quit playing Frankenstein. You know. Sorry, man. I went off on a complete tangent.
That's
Other
okay.
other things that you want to feel that you want to add on that.
You know that I think you covered it well. It's just been rough trying to work full time and go through all this. I took the last 2 Fridays off just from needed to. I'm in recovery for a couple of hours and couldn't actually work. I actually had to go back and like who did I text to what to? Because I don't remember. People started responding to a text that I sent when I was coming home from Charleston. And I'm like, what did I actually say? Because I don't remember texting anything.
Madness. It happens, buddy. It
Yeah.
happens. Well, continued peace for you as we pray for your as you're on this I want to say your cancer recovery journey, whatever this is, right? As you're navigating it. And just love you, buddy. Just love you. Uh I had a couple of I had a couple of crazy weeks.
Oh,
Doug knows some of the details of this. I'm going to be as general and non-specific as possible. I've had, and again, this is the stuff that we talk about, right? It may be medical challenges you're dealing with, maybe work or career challenges that you're dealing with. That's sort of exactly what I dealt with over the last couple of weeks. I got to work with a major client that I've worked with before in the past, and I was brought on a project. Which at first it was like, awesome. There's a lot of creative stuff that's involved in this. Amazing. Can't wait to do it. And then sometimes you just can't control the people that you're going to work with on it. I had a majority of people that were on my team that was awesome. And then we had one sort of managing person that was brought in. And I guess the best way, as graciously as I can say this, yeah, I don't want to, the person was younger than me and had a different level of experience, but the position that they were on that project, they were sort of like they were more in the entrenched with the client that we were working with. So as a result of that, that sort of put her in a position where, you know, the person was above me and several of the other guys. And actually, some of the work that she had done, I had worked with on this client before in the same capacity or more. I guess I won't get too much into the details on it, but what ended up happening was, um, I think that there were some decisions that were made that basically put me in a place where I got a little bit put to the back. I got to put a little bit lower on the totem pole on the project. And um I guess a couple of the feelings I had while I was going through it was frustration, embarrassment, maybe a little bit of humiliation. I don't want to say fully humiliation, but there were definitely moments where I was on this project kind of going, yeah, I'm being massively underused in this. And, I was grateful for the paycheck and all the stuff to be able to work on it. Um, but it had I had a couple of things that went through my mind, and I don't want to do spoilers on like The Chosen season 4 if you haven't seen it or whatever, but when you get around to watching that, there is a moment that happens in that season. It's not really scripturally based, but there's a moment where Jesus goes through a situation where he's, put through sort of a humiliating ordeal, not ordeal, but he's put into humiliating situation. And I think that a lot of his apostles are just like going, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And he's just showing the example, right? He's showing them the example of going, yeah, you do this. Sometimes you're put in these situations, and because he accepts the humiliating situation, it has an effect on the people that have put him into that humiliating situation. And that image was running through my mind as I was doing the work, where I went, here's a deal. And this is where I'm grateful for the work that I've done and the prayer work and fellowship and recovery work that I've done, therapy work that I've done, writing work that I've done, because all of that was able to come to me. And who can, and believe me, I've been in scenarios that were similar to this years ago, where I was put into a scenario. I can be specific about this one. I remember years ago we were down at Disney, and there was a new version of a comedy show that we were working on that I had workshopped with these other guys. And listen, there was some behind the scenes, you know, politicking and maneuvering and all this stuff, and sort of like a lot of what do you call it, cronyism that was sort
oh
of
yeah.
going on at the time. And there was a new guy that was brought in, and it just so happened that I was not able to make one of the specific rehearsals, nor was another guy able to make specific rehearsals. But there was a manager that I had at the time who made the decision of just like, well, if this guy, if Kevin can't make this rehearsal, then he's going to be out of the regular shows that we're doing. And they ended up putting in this new guy. Um, Even though there was another guy, I'm getting very messy in the details, but there had been unfair treatment because there was another guy that did the exact same thing that I did, and he did not receive the same punishment, for lack of a better word. And I kind of had to watch as this new guy that was brought in that was really liked by this manager and was just like, we're going to put him on. And I remember, it was a temporary thing that we were doing for about 3 weeks, and I was put in a much lower position that wasn't even involved in the show, and I had to kind of watch. And at that time, because of where I was, I got filled with bitterness, resentment. I was complaining. I ended up petulantly just saying, "Take me off all these days. I don't need the money." Right? I was just like, this isn't right. Like, and trying to just like complain, the entire way through it, and that where I was then 20 plus years ago was not where I was over these last couple of weeks. And it was this moment of going, you know what? All right, this is what this is, and just accept this for what this is and pray through it. And I also had this other revelation that had happened at the end, which is, I came to a decision with this client for myself because I worked with this client for some time, and it was just a moment of like, this is very um I have seen this happen. It's not because of specific people. There's just I don't know, there's a version of a culture that's there where there's certain people that kind of come in and there's certain decisions that are usually made. And I've seen it happen again and again. And I think what ended up happening towards the end of this was I finally came to the moment of going. It's funny because Doug, I'm just finishing editing up one of our videos that we did that's going to go out today, the day that we're recording this. But it was about the deciding and acting. And it's so funny as I was editing that video because it was like me speaking to me from the past, and it was this moment of we had talked about in that decision and action episode about like you're at a moment where you have to make the decision. You can't have your foot on the boat and your foot on the dock at the same point. Like at some point you got to make a decision. And I think particularly with this client for a few years now, I have been doing that. I've had my foot on one thing and my foot on the dock.
Hmm.
And I think particularly what happened with this client over a couple of weeks ago, I think it was finally that deciding moment of going, it's time to go.
Yeah.
That has to be done. And it's now time for you to move on, particularly with the work that we're doing with I'd Rather Be a Buffalo, the stuff I've been doing with kevingreg.com. It's like, it's God just saying, we got to go. We got to go. And you got to make the decision. And you have to make the decision in faith and with work, but you have to make it. And so I think that was the thing that came up from it, being put through a scenario of frustration, humiliation, having to just kind of like, and I really did, like, I do feel to the best of my ability, I feel as if I did honor that manager's position this time on this project to be able to honor and to go and not completely agreeing with the methods that were used as we worked on the project, but I do feel that I put myself into a proper, for lack of a better word, a proper servant mode while I was there to kind of go, okay, what is it you need from me? Okay, I will deliver to the best of my ability with what what you're asking of me. Um, and got through it. And I think I got through it well, but there were definitely some lessons and some insights I got out of it. So I don't know if there's any thoughts or insights that came to you as I talk about all that blah blah blah.
Just really the following Jesus and his words are very simple and straightforward. But when the rubber meets the road against our human nature, it becomes very difficult because no one likes to be seen as lesser in this world. And yet we're being called to be the servant, to wipe the feet of the people who maybe even want to harm us. And it's so much against our fleshly nature that we come up against it. And yet we've got Jesus whispering in our ear, here's the right thing I need to do now. And it's like nails on a chalkboard sometimes.
Yeah. There's a
But
really there's a litany of humility that they have in Catholic prayer. And one of the things is praying for those people that calumniate you. And
mm,
calumniation is that concept of like somebody really speaking ill and poorly and sort of in a way like lying about you to others. And I think I had a little calumniation on this project. There was definitely a moment where I just felt like I feel as if I feel as if what I can do and what my abilities are and what I am, I feel like it's being spoken poorly of to other people in the project that's putting me lower on the thing. And really having to go, all right, Lord, you and I know the truth.
yeah,
You and I know the truth in this. Or if there's something in this that needs to be revealed or open to me or whatever, all right, I'll do it. You know, to a point. It's not to, I will always say this. The Christian journey is, it's not also just being about a doormat for people. Like we are called to those moments where we have to love people exactly like Doug talked about with people that may actively want to harm us. But we also have a right to be able to stand up and to also say, hey, that's not right.
right,
Now we're also called to stand up and say that many times in a nonviolent way, you know. I think it is the rare case when it's a violence thing, you know, when it's a self-defense or anything like that. But there are those moments where you know, we sort of let those things wash over like the rock, right? Like a rock, where it's just like you go, okay, but Jesus, you're my foundation. You're stronger than this. And I'm going to hold on to that and still stay steadfast while this other junk washes past and over us. Um, but it is not easy because Satan lies in wait to be able to spring stuff that feels like, you know, it's righteous for you to be able to stand up and to say your stuff and to go
right.
there is some truth in that until it goes, because then the sinful part of us goes, and I'm going to make you hurt for what you put me through.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of times where I had some moments where I just thought, there were some moments in my car where I thought I could unpack and undress this person pretty quickly. I could pretty much bring up certain things and just dress that person down, you know? And believe me, there were a couple of times where those thoughts and words came out in my car
Mm,
and going, can't do that. Can't do it. Will not help. Will not
yeah.
help the person, will not help the situation. Got to keep going. So, anyway, that's sort of my deal. And so I just kind of keep striving forward and just praying. And there's been an odd sense of peace I've had through it. But, you know, definitely not an easy, the particular week that I went through it, it was a challenging week. Again, when you're working on a project and it just seems like, hey, this is great. And then all of a sudden you're about like day 3 or 4 into it, and you just kind of go, something's off.
Yeah.
Something's really off, you know? And I got to see this through to the end.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Anyway, uh, any other thoughts you have with all this stuff that we've been talking about your illness stuff, the stuff that I dealt with in my work situation?
It's this is why we're called to take every thought captive,
Yeah.
because it's not a day by day thing. It's a moment by moment interaction with God. And that's why, Paul was fond of saying, pray without ceasing. It's like always keep our ears open for what God has to say in the moment. And that's how we become sanctified. That's how we become more like Christ, by doing that, listening to him and obeying in the moment. Doesn't mean it's easy. I will be the first to say that, but it is the right thing to do. And the more I try to pursue that, the more certain things get better, other things get harder because I've not addressed them properly through God's perspective.
I think he'll also use those moments, and he'll use those moments where we feel off, it'll be that moment of going, all right, Lord, I got it wrong. I got it
Yeah.
wrong here, you know, and maybe I've messed up. Maybe I've said the wrong thing, done the wrong action. Um, help me change that. Help me course correct that in my life because we're not always going to get it perfect and we're going to
No,
fall. And that's also that's also part of our Christian journey. I think that that's the thing where we get so hooked up by people that are so entrenched in the world that think like you're supposed to be perfect, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be good. It's like no, I'm not.
no.
I'm a I'm a mess all the way through. I'm just learning how to try and do it better every single day. You know, I think just being transparent about that, and then those are also the moments of going like, this is where I got it wrong. And a person that I hurt or offended as a result of that, I am sorry. You know, I'm gonna do better. You know, crazy. Good stuff, buddy. Always appreciate it. The way that Doug and I unpack these thoughts and get through them are through fellowship and talking at your community, and also by writing stuff out. That's one of the ways that we process both those. One of the things we talk about continually here on I'd Rather Be a Buffalo, writing it down. Journaling is a great way to do that. If you've never journaled before, head over to I'd rather be a buffalo.com. We have resources and material that are there that will help guide you through what do you do? How do you write? It doesn't have to be perfect, but we have resources that are available and stuff that's coming your way that will help you get into the practice of doing that. Writing down that stuff so that you can understand, process your thoughts, and also God willing, leading to fellowship and community with other people so that you can talk it out with other people as well. Where do you find that? I'd rather be a buffalo.com. Also, a great way to keep up to date with us is go over specifically to our Instagram account at I'd rather be a buffalo. That's where we've got up to date stuff that's going on with the podcast, the show, anything else that's coming your way. Interact with us on there. We'll comment back for
Yeah,
sure. We're super grateful for you. That's all I got for this time. How about you, Doug? You good?
we got it covered.
Sounds good. All right, we will see you in our next episode. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.